So anyone that it's, by the way, I mean, there's a code and you track it and it's a real thing. You see sales, you stay with us. Sales will talk, you fire us. The reason this also came up is thousands slip into my DMs over my Mounjaro use. And I've referred all these people to this isn't a back alley. You have to now be referred to my medical professional. And then she's like, so, I mean, I have some things going on over there, but I'm like, God, if this just worked like it did with advertisers, this is how it works. Every time I talk about Ozempic or Mounjaro, people slip into the DMs. You still have to have a consult with my nurse. You have to then get a blood test. But a lot of you, HIPAA laws, she can't let me know who, but people will slip back in. Thank you for hooking me up with your girl. I started my Ozempic journey because of you. I'm not trying to push it. I will say it again. It really upset someone last time, but I'm going to double down on it. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I will stand by that. The fact that I could even say that I'm on Mounjaro, where 6 months ago I had to say I'm on Ozempic, which I never was on. It's always been Mounjaro because nobody knew what Mounjaro. The fact that now there's class recognition, this is bigger than you, Sarah. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than. I just got in an argument with Debbie Manton. It's not an argument. We had a discussion with someone from The View, Debbie Mantonopoulos. She's coming up on my show. She was on season 1 of The View. She had a point of view, and I argued my point of view. And she's like, "I see your point." I'm like, "I see your point." The train has left the station. This is Botox. Before you say what you have to say, I just want to say, this is Botox. This is it. 30 years ago, someone said, we'll get into Dolores and Margaret and all the lies. 30 years ago, someone said, I have to let you know, I took a needle. I put the needle into my forehead. It's filled with botulism. It's filled with actual poison. It has frozen my forehead, and my forehead no longer moves, and I have no wrinkles. So I am the fountain of youth. Someone else said, well, does that wear off? The person said, it does in 3 months. The other person said, what are you going to do when that wears off? It's just your wrinkles are going to come back times 10. And the person said, you're absolutely right. But the wrinkles are going to come back times 10. I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life. Well, I can tell you that 20 years ago, 20 years ago, when I took my first needle to the forehead, I have not missed a Botox appointment in 30 years. Now I need it in 20 years. Now I need it now. So when I started Botox 20 years ago, I'm still on it, and I will be on it till the day that I drop dead, which at this point is probably, if I'm lucky, 20 years from now. So the day I took my first needle and my person said, don't ever go in the sun again. I said, yes, sir. I've never been in the sun since. I'm this pale all around. If you don't want to date me because of it, I don't give a shit. Yeah. So the day you start, so this is that. So whether you are, Sarah's dying to, so whether you are, so it's not, you don't have to support it. You don't have, but I'm being honest about it. It's not a shortcut. Let me just make that very clear. It is do not take a needle and stick it into your abdomen. And it doesn't hurt. It takes 2 seconds. And then life is great. And you are having a wonderful, wonderful life. The first month or two, I could barely get out of bed. I still dragged myself to this fucking computer and did my show all day. The next 2 months, I felt like shit 90% of the time with a whole host of side effects. And now I have to say 90% of the time I actually feel good, but like I threw up 2 days ago and I threw up the day before that. So, yeah. So I'm good 90% of the time now, but I was miserable 90% of the time before. It's no shortcut. You have to be ready for the side effects. I'm not stopping it. So no one needs to ask me how it's going to work when I stop it. I plan to be on this for the rest of my life. We'll see how that works. It's still new. Maybe there are long-term effects, but I'm working with medical professionals. And if anyone listening to this thinks that they are going to stop Eli Lilly and the drug companies, whether you agree or not, you can fight your fight all day. And this will no longer be a fight. That's what, let me just say that this will no longer be you awful, vain, rich people that are taking this away from diabetics that need it, because that will not be an issue, because it will be readily available to everyone. And yes, I know the difference between Wegovy, Mounjaro, Ozempic. I know the difference between semaglutide from the compounding pharmacies. I'm on that too. One is a pen, one you draw the needle. We have the trip. I mean, I trust me, I'm well versed. I don't know what I don't know, but I know everything about this because I've researched it to the nth degree with my law degree. So I'm smart and I can read words and understand what they mean. So I'm not pushing it. I'm not saying that I'm just saying for me, I'm on it, just like Dolores, and I will not be stopping anytime soon. And I've lost 40 pounds in the past 7 months, and I have never been happier. I was happy. And by the way, being thin is not the goal of life. I already was happy, heavy. I was happy running this podcast, sitting in and eating fucking pizza and Chinese food 24 hours a day. But now that the world is open, I recognize myself and feel like myself again, and I'm happy. So there you go.
Okay, wait, but
that's it. I'm done with my rant.
You did it to be thin, though. You did do it to be thin.
Of course I did it to be thin because this is, I'm a gay man that lives in LA and the Hamptons in New York, honey. It's tough on these streets. But I don't think that, my insides, if you don't have your shit worked out inside, just being thin is not going to help. Actually, it's some of the most miserable people are absolutely drop dead gorgeous because their whole self-worth is based on how they look. Right. Mine is not. Mine really is not. I was very happy 40 pounds heavier. I really was. I built this podcast as a chunkster, but I am happy now because this is the David that I knew from 2019 earlier. And so I feel like myself and I recognize myself, and I absolutely did it to be thin. Sure.
Look, I'm team Bethenny on this because Bethenny did a rant and I did a 4-part rant. And I'm somebody who was chronically obese from the time I was 8 years old until I was 28. I gained and lost 150 pounds. I would go to the doctor. They'd read my BMI. They'd always tell me to lose weight. I had severe chub rub. I mean, I was so fat and I was on so many yo-yo diets. I mean, I can't even tell you how many dates I didn't go on, because I hated the way I looked. And people, I'm surprised you get any hate because when I put up my videos that I think it's a terrible idea to take these drugs and there will be major consequences, people were like, fuck you. I've lost 40 pounds. I'm so happy.
That's what I said. I said, fuck you, Sarah.
People are, would you say this to David Yontef's face? I said this.
Yes.
My thing is I hope it works. I really hope it works. But the makers of these drugs are doing this because the moment you go off it, you gain all the weight back. That is not addressing your obesity. There are probably 5% of the population. It's like type 2 diabetes, right? That a lot of these drugs were made for, which 10% of our entire population in the United States actually has type 2 diabetes. Most of them are over the age of 45, by the way. Most of our listeners are younger than 45. So you probably have type 2 diabetes based on a lot of your lifestyle and not necessarily genetically inherited. People just don't want to get to the root of why we're so overweight in this country. And that's my problem. Like what we do with everything. We did it with opioids. We now are getting to the point, like you said, I agree with you. The train's left the station. People are not going to look back and they're going to think that this is the long-term solution. It's going to be very expensive. You're going to have to try to make up or get medical conditions to get your insurance company to pay for it. Otherwise, you're going to be paying anywhere from $400 to $750 a month out of pocket to try to stay thin. It doesn't address the fact that we're one of the only nations that puts toxic chemicals in our foods that keep people addicted. And why do you eat when you're not hungry? That's why people are obese. And we don't get to the root of that, which is tons of it, not for everybody. So this is where people come from me. There are some people that genuinely, you see them on my 600-pound life, I watch all the time. They do have almost something in their brain. It's almost like Prader-Willi disease, which is when your brain never tells you that you're full. You just can't. But that
sounds awful.
Awful. But there's only like 5% of the population that has it. The rest of us are 40 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight. Why?
It's emotional eating. Yes. I get it all.
Unlike drugs and alcohol, you do not need heroin to live. You have to find a healthy relationship with food. What bothers me about this drug is people are going to take it. They're going to feel nauseous and they're still going to make the decision, the one meal a day that they can eat. They're going to go to Burger King and eat a cheeseburger.
No, I don't do that.
Well, you don't, but a lot of people are going to because they don't understand what's in food that keeps you addicted to eating and craving those sugary foods over and over. And you're just going to eat the same small amount. It's why people with gastric bypass surgery get it. And 5 years later, they gain it all back.
Guess what? This will put gastric bypass surgery out of business.
Well, yeah, because you've got to stay on it for life.
But we don't know that you can't stay on it for life right now. And again, so I mean, and by the way, I do get hate, but I do get a lot of people that are like, they just thank you so. They're like, thank you so much for just, I will never be swayed. You could hate, leave bad reviews. Nothing you say will ever. But I also practice what I preach. I do not judge anybody. I am a very, very conservative, judgmental person to myself.